Okay, let's get into your reading, Gemini. Okay, at this very point in time, I feel like there isn't very much communication between you and a specific person. I feel like they're not talking to you. I feel like they're not really saying anything. There is a lot of radio silence. You've had a connection with each other. You have felt drawn to each other. There has most likely, I feel, been communication in the past. They're not really talking to you. They're not really saying a lot. There can just be the sense here of radio silence and, crickets. You just feel like nothing is happening here. And I want to sit with what that silence has probably done to you, okay, before we go a single card further, because the title says it. Someone is not talking to you right now, but still they. And the whole point of this reading is that word still, because from where you're sitting, okay, the silence looks like an ending. It looks like they stopped caring. It looks like whatever was there is over, and you were the only one who ever felt it. And I need you to hold on before you conclude any of that, because the cards are about to tell a completely different story about what that silence actually means, because there are two completely different kinds of silence, okay? And they feel identical from the outside, which is what makes this so painful. There's the silence of someone who's done, who's moved on, who genuinely stopped caring and walked away light. And there's the silence of someone who's drowning in something, who went quiet because they're a mess inside, not because they feel nothing. And you've been assuming it's the first kind, okay? Because the first kind is what silence usually looks like it means. But the cards are about to show you it's the second kind, the loud kind, the kind that's full of noise on their end, even while it's completely quiet on yours. So before you write the ending yourself, okay, before you decide what the quiet means, let the cards actually tell you what's happening on the other side of it, because it is not what you think. So let's have a look and see what is coming through in relation to what you need to know about this, because you clearly need to know something about it, because this reading is pointing us in some kind of direction. The Five of Pentacles. So the Five of Pentacles here actually shows that, okay, on your side, you may be feeling like, oh, why did this person do this? Why did they just sort of shut me out? It's interesting because ever since they shut you out, they're starting to feel very lonely. They're starting to feel left out. They're starting to feel abandoned in their own life. They are feeling not happy. And they're also feeling very misunderstood. There's a lot of arguments. There's a lot of misunderstandings, miscommunications happening in their own personal life. And the Five of Pentacles shows two figures out in the snow, okay, cold. One of them injured, limping past a warm, glowing, stained glass window without looking up at it. And it's the card of feeling shut out in the cold, of being right next to warmth and not being able to reach it. And here's what's fascinating about it turning up on their side, okay? Because you probably feel like you're the one out in the cold. You're the one who got shut out. But the card is saying they're the ones freezing now. They closed the window on their own warmth, and now they're standing outside it, lonelier than they've ever been. And I want to name why that loneliness is so specific, okay? Because it's not ordinary loneliness. It's the loneliness of having had something good and pushed it away yourself. That's different from never having had it. It comes with a second layer on top. The ache of knowing you're the one who did this, and everyone around them, okay, the cards are showing me is somehow making it worse, not better. The people they turn to instead of you aren't filling the gap. The conversations feel hollow. The connections feel thin. And every empty interaction quietly reminds them of the one that wasn't empty, the one they walked away from. So this isn't a person thriving without you, okay? Living their best life, relieved to be free. This is a person who bet that life would be better without you and is losing that bet a little more with every passing day. There are people around them that are not really talking to them properly, that are not really expressing themselves properly to them. There's just a lot of misunderstandings, miscommunications, problems, issues, challenges of this nature. There's definitely this sense here of lack of communication, lack of understanding, and just them feeling like people are not really on their side. The Chariot. So the Chariot here goes to show that, they try to be around people and they try to have fun, but they just have no fun, okay? And that is what I'm seeing here. Yes, there's an element of karma, I guess, with what they've done towards you. But in many ways, this is also the fact that they just kind of thought to themselves that moving away from you would bring them harmony, would bring them peace. Maybe they would feel a lot more like themselves, but actually moving away from you has just brought them chaos. They actually aren't happy. And the Chariot shows a figure standing in a chariot pulled by two sphinxes, okay? One black and one white. And the whole card is about driving forward, taking control, going somewhere with force of will. And the irony here is that they took the reins. They drove themselves away from you deliberately, certain it was the right direction, and it led them straight into the opposite of what they wanted. And I want to name what that opposite actually feels like for them, okay? Because it's a particular flavor of misery. It's the misery of having engineered your own unhappiness while believing you were fixing it. They didn't stumble into this. They steered. They took hold of the reins, pointed the whole thing away from you, and drove, certain it was toward peace. And every day the peace doesn't arrive, okay? The Chariot's certainty curdles into a slow sinking doubt. This was supposed to be better. This was supposed to be the thing that helped. And it's worse. It's so much worse. And there's a trapped feeling in that, okay? Because the Chariot doesn't reverse easily. A person who drove themselves this far in the wrong direction has a long way to turn around and a lot of pride to set down before they can even start. And I want to name why that happens, okay? Because it's a very human mistake. When someone feels bad inside, they look around for the cause, and sometimes they land on the nearest big thing and decide that must be it. And you were a big thing in their life, so you became the suspect, not because you did anything wrong, but because you were significant enough to blame. You know how sometimes people do an elimination diet? Oh my God, I'm trying to say it. But words get jumbled. People try to do an elimination diet where they think, oh, maybe this is what was causing me to not feel so great, right? And then they get rid of that item, but they still don't feel great. And they're like, oh, maybe it's something else now. I thought that, for example, Apple, okay, just to give an example, that Apple was causing me to not feel so great. But they get rid of the apple and they realize, actually, I still feel like that, So this person kind of did, in many ways, an elimination diet trial, thinking that, them not feeling so great might be because, they're around you and maybe they're feeling overwhelmed. So they kind of put you aside, and now they're starting to realize they still don't feel great. And I actually love that elimination diet way of putting it, okay? Because it's more accurate than it first sounds. When you feel bad and can't find the cause, you start removing things one at a time, hoping the next removal is the one that fixes it. And the danger of that method is that you can remove something genuinely good simply because it was big enough to suspect. And that's what happened to you, okay? You weren't removed because you were bad for them. You were removed because you were significant, and significant things get tested first. But the test came back clear. The removal changed nothing, which is the whole proof that you were never the ingredient making them sick. And here's the part that matters for you, okay? A person on an elimination diet eventually adds back the thing they wrongly cut. Once they realize it was never the problem, they want it back in their life, and they feel foolish for ever taking it out. That's the exact arc this person is on with you right now. So it was never you, right? It was never you to begin with. Like, you were never the problem in this sense. And I want to stop right here and say that as clearly and as gently as I possibly can, okay? Because it might be the single most important sentence in this whole reading, and I don't want it to rush past you. You were never the problem, okay? Not a little bit, not partly, not in some way you haven't figured out yet. The thing that was making them feel bad was never you. And their walking away was them misdiagnosing their own pain and cutting out the wrong thing. And I want to speak to why this hits so hard, okay? Because there's a reason it lands like a weight coming off. When someone pulls away from you, the mind does something cruel almost automatically. It assumes you must have caused it. It starts an investigation with you as the only suspect. And it will always find something to charge you with, because that's what a mind looking for fault does. And you've probably been running that investigation for a while now, okay? Going back through the conversations, rereading the messages, hunting for the moment it went wrong, the thing you said, the way you were, the flaw that must have driven them off. And this reading is walking into that investigation, okay? And closing the case. There was no crime. The evidence you kept finding against yourself was never real evidence. It was just your fear wearing the costume of proof. And now they're starting to realize, I still feel rubbish. I still feel awful, like nothing's working out for me. And so they feel really foolish, like they feel really sad that they put you aside. Okay, they stopped communicating with you. They stopped talking to you. They stopped being around you. They stopped making things work out with you, for you, or around you. They're starting to feel that. And so this is what I'm really seeing here. The Two of Swords. And with the Two of Swords, there's this really powerful energy of just, really feeling lost and feeling lonely. And feeling like, hang on a second, I thought I got rid of the right thing, but actually I feel 10 times worse. And it's not that they wanted to get rid of you, okay? I think that's really important, but it's more so that they sort of put you aside and they thought, like, let me just step away from this, right? Let me just put this away. And they still don't feel great. So it was never you to begin with, okay? It was never you to begin with. It was never you. It was never you. And I think you need to definitely know that, because it was never you. And the Two of Swords shows a blindfolded figure sitting with two swords crossed over their chest, okay? A crescent moon beside them, the sea behind, blindfolded, arms crossed, refusing to see, refusing to decide. And it's a card of a stalemate made by not looking, of someone who has cut themselves off from a truth that's sitting right in front of them. And that's exactly the position they put themselves in, okay? Blindfolded to the real cause of their unhappiness, arms crossed against the one connection that was actually good for them. And now they're sitting in that self-made stalemate, feeling 10 times worse, slowly having to admit they blindfolded themselves to the wrong problem. And I want to say something about how heavy that particular realization is, okay? Because it's one thing to be sad and another thing entirely to be sad and know it's your own doing. A person who gets hurt by someone else at least gets to feel wronged, gets the clean feeling of it not being their fault. This person doesn't get that. They have to sit with the fact that they did this, okay? That the loneliness they're in is a room they locked themselves into, and that the key was always in their own pocket. And that's a specific kind of ache, the ache of self-inflicted loss. And it's exactly the kind of ache that eventually forces a person to their feet to go and undo what they did And that's why they're going to realize, hang on a second, I put this to the side thinking that that is maybe why I was feeling emotionally triggered and overwhelmed and stressed, but it was never you. The Page of Wands. And now they feel super, super foolish because we've got here the Page of Wands, a very foolish kind of energy. Like they feel very, very foolish that they stopped communicating with you and thinking that maybe, it was coming from this side when actually it was them. It was them, okay? It was them. Let's be very honest. It was them, okay? And now they feel really, really silly. Like they feel stupidly silly, okay? And the Page of Wands shows a young figure holding a tall sprouting staff, okay? Looking up at it, full of fire and impulse, standing in a barren desert. And pages can be impulsive. They act on a feeling before they've thought it all the way through. And that's what this person did. They acted on an impulse, a hunch that you were the problem, and it turned out to be a young, foolish, impulsive misread. And I want to draw out what the foolishness actually feels like from their side, okay? Because it's a specific kind of shame. It's the shame of having been so sure. They didn't drift away from you accidentally. They made a decision, probably told themselves a whole story about why it was the right and healthy thing to do. Maybe even felt proud of themselves for setting a boundary or taking space. And now that story has collapsed, okay? And they have to sit with the fact that they were confidently, completely wrong. And that's a hard thing for a person to face because it's easier to stay away and pretend it was right than to come back and admit it wasn't. So when they do come back, okay, and the cards say they will understand what it costs them to do it, they're not just apologizing for the silence. They're admitting they misjudged the whole thing and swallowing the pride of having been so certain about something so wrong. And I want to be fair to them for 1 second, okay? Even while the card calls them foolish, because there's something almost forgivable in it. They weren't being cruel on purpose. They were flailing, trying anything to feel better, and they grabbed the wrong liver. It was still a mistake, and it still hurt you, but it came from confusion, not from malice. The Page of Cups and the Eight of Pentacles. And then also here with the Page of Cups and also as well the Eight of Pentacles. There's a very powerful energy here of them wanting to work hard and come towards you and express their feelings to you, hoping that you will take them back, hoping that you will want them in your life again. They know that how they did things and how they perhaps, ended the communication and sort of put you aside is not nice. They will want to work hard towards you. They will want to show you that they can be trusted, that they can be in your life. And the Eight of Pentacles shows a craftsman at his bench, okay, head down, carving the same symbol into coin after coin, a whole row of finished ones hung up beside him. It's the card of effort, of diligence, of putting in the patient work to get something right. So this isn't them planning to toss out a lazy apology and expect everything back. The card says they're prepared to actually work, to earn it, to prove it over time. And the Page of Cups, okay, a young figure at the shore holding a cup with a fish popping its head out of it, a surprise, a gentle emotional message. It's the card of a sincere, tender, almost shy offering of feeling, and it tells you the way they come back will be soft, vulnerable, not defensive. And I want to prepare you for something about that apology, okay? Because it puts you in a position worth thinking about in advance. When someone comes back genuinely sorry, genuinely humbled, genuinely willing to work, it can be very moving, and it can also move fast and sweep you back into something before you've decided you actually want it. So hold two things at once, okay? The apology being real is a good thing, and it's evidence of everything this reading has said. And at the same time, their sincerity is not an obligation on you. You can receive the apology fully and still take your time. You can believe they mean it and still let them show it over weeks, not just say it in one emotional moment. Because here's what you know now that you didn't before, okay? You were never the problem. And a person who knows they were never the problem doesn't have to rush to prove their worth to someone coming back to apologize. You get to let them do the proving at your pace, from a place of calm. They will try to express to you, no, you meant so much to me, and I'm sorry I did this. There is going to be an apology. There's going to be communication, where they will try and come forward and they will try to ask for forgiveness and beg for forgiveness and sort of be like, I'm really sorry. That was really foolish of me. And I thought that, maybe it was this, which is why I felt not so great. But actually, it was something completely different. And they will feel foolish and they will feel ridiculous and they will feel sad that this is what happened, right? They will feel sad that, oh, I thought that this is what was happening, but actually it was something else. Like they will feel genuinely foolish. They will feel unbelievably foolish and sad and really, really sad and really distraught and very upset and just frustrated that this is how things ended up going and this is how things ended up being. And I want you to hear how much of that repetition is the reader circling one truth, okay? Because it's not filler, foolish, silly, sad, distraught, upset, frustrated. That's every layer of what this person feels when the full realization lands. And the reason it comes in waves like that, okay, is that regret this deep doesn't arrive all at once. First they feel foolish, then sad, then it deepens into distress, then into real grief for what they gave up. It's a staircase down into fully understanding what they did, and they're going to walk every step of it before they reach the door back to you. The 10 of Swords, they will feel unbelievably hurt, especially here with the 10 of Swords, because there's this very powerful energy of them being hurt and feeling frustrated and, feeling like they just created their own problems and issues and challenges. And the 10 of Swords shows a figure lying face down, okay? 10 swords in their back, a dark sky above. But here's the crucial detail. The sun is breaking over the horizon in the distance. It's the card of a painful ending that is also rock bottom, the lowest point. And rock bottom's one mercy is that there's nowhere to go from it but up. And I want you to understand what that means for them, okay? Because it's actually hopeful in a strange way. This person has hit the bottom of their own bad decision. They felt the full weight of it. The swords in the back of this card are self-inflicted here, and they know it. And that rock bottom is exactly what turns a person around, because you don't come back with a real apology until you've actually felt the full cost of what you did. And I want to sit with the sunrise in that card for a moment, okay? Because it's easy to miss underneath all those swords. The 10 of Swords looks like the most brutal card in the deck, and in a way it is, but it always paints a dawn breaking on the horizon behind the figure. And that dawn isn't decoration, it's the whole message. This is the end of the worst of it, not the beginning, because you cannot get more swords in your back than 10. Okay, the card is maxed out. It's the bottom, and the bottom is the one place from which every direction is up. So this person, lying in the wreckage of a choice they made themselves, is actually at the turning point, the exact moment where the only way left to go is back toward the light and back toward you. The 6 of Wands, and then the 6 of Wands here, this shows the return itself, them coming forward, wanting to be received, wanting to be let back in. And the 6 of Wands shows a rider on a white horse, okay, a laurel wreath on their head, a crowd walking alongside the victory card, the card of public return and being welcomed. But I want to point out the vulnerability underneath it here, because a person riding in for a victory lap is also a person hoping the crowd actually cheers, and that's them coming back to you, okay? Hoping to be received warmly, hoping you'll let them in, hoping the return goes well, rather than meeting a closed door. And you get to decide how that goes from your own ground, in your own time, knowing the whole while that you were never the problem to begin with. The King of Swords, and especially here with the King of Swords, they want to have happiness, they want to have joy, they want to have, fulfillment in their life. And I want to point out something honest about that want, okay? Because it tells you what they're really chasing underneath everything. They didn't walk away because they wanted less of you. They walked away because they wanted more happiness, and they guessed wrong about where to find it. The want was always for joy, for peace, for a life that feels good, and they're only now realizing you were part of that, not the obstacle to it. And the King of Swords sits facing forward on his throne, okay? Sword upright in his hand, butterflies carved into the stone behind him, a clear sky. And he's the card of clarity, of truth, of finally seeing a situation with a clear, rational mind after the emotion settles. And that's where this person is heading, okay? Out of the fog, into the clarity of the King of Swords, where they can finally see plainly what they did, why it was wrong, and what they actually want, which is happiness, joy, fulfillment. And the cards keep saying, you. And I want to close the arc of this person's whole journey through the reading, okay? Because the cards told a complete story about them. They started in the Five of Pentacles, cold and shut out. They drove the wrong way in the Chariot. They blindfolded themselves in the Two of Swords, acted foolishly in the Page of Wands, and hit the very bottom in the Ten of Swords. And the King of Swords is where that story lands, okay? At clarity, the fog finally lifting, the emotions settling enough that they can see the whole thing plainly for the first time. And what they see when the clarity comes, okay, is you, not as the problem they thought you were, but as the good thing they threw away while chasing a peace that was never going to come from your absence. That's the realization at the end of their road, and it's the realization that sends them back to your door. And before the final message, I want to leave a few things to actually hold on to, okay? The first, it was never you, loves, and I need you to actually believe that, not just hear it. The whole reading said it over and over. They cut you out trying to fix a bad feeling, and the bad feeling stayed, which proves you were never its cause. Whatever you've been quietly blaming yourself for, put it down. It was never yours to carry. The second, their silence was never indifference. The Five of Pentacles and the Two of Swords showed someone lonely, lost, blindfolded to their own mistake, not someone who stopped caring. The quiet you experienced as rejection was actually them freezing outside a window they closed themselves. The third, the apology is real and it's coming with effort behind it. The Eight of Pentacles, the Page of Cups, and the Six of Wands show a genuine, humble, hard-working return. Not a cheap sorry expecting instant forgiveness. And you get to decide what to do with it from a place of knowing your own worth, because you were never the problem in the first place. And I want to answer one more thing, okay? Why this reached you now with this much specific detail. Because the silence had started to convince you that you did something wrong, that you drove them off, that you were too much or not enough. And none of that is true, okay? And you were meant to be told that plainly before you accepted a story about yourself that was never real. I don't pull the Five of Pentacles, the Chariot, the Two of Swords, the Page of Wands, the Eight of Pentacles, the Ten of Swords, and the King of Swords, all telling the same story by accident. And I want to speak to the small doubting part of you for a second, okay? The one quietly thinking, but if it wasn't me, why did it feel like it was? Because they made you the explanation for their pain. And when someone treats you like the cause, you start to believe you are. But their treatment was never evidence. Set that voice down tonight. This is already clear, okay? The Five of Pentacles confirmed they're the ones lonely and shut out now, not you. The Chariot confirmed they drove themselves away expecting peace and found chaos. The Two of Swords and Page of Wands confirmed they blindfolded themselves, blamed the wrong thing, and now feel foolish. The Eight of Pentacles and Page of Cups confirmed a hard-working, sincere apology is coming. The Ten of Swords confirmed they've hit the bottom of their own mistake, and the King of Swords confirmed they're moving toward clarity and toward you. So let me lay this all out one final time, okay, slowly, so it actually settles. Someone is not talking to you right now, okay? And their silence felt like an ending, like rejection, like it was somehow your fault. And it was none of those things. They cut you out trying to feel better. The bad feelings stayed, and now they're lonely, foolish, and slowly realizing it was never you. And still, through all that silence, they're going to come back with an apology, with humility, with real effort to earn their way back into your life. One message. They went silent because they blamed the wrong thing. You were never the problem. You were the one good thing they let go of. If this resonated, loves, let me know what hit hardest. I genuinely read every comment, okay? Even the ones I can't always reply to individually. Your story becomes part of the reason this reading keeps finding the next person who needs it to like this reading. And make sure that you're subscribed. And I'll see you in the next one. Wherever you're watching this from, okay, I want you to actually feel this settle in before you go. You have probably spent this whole silence, okay, combing back through everything, looking for the thing you did wrong, the message you shouldn't have sent, the moment you were too much, the reason it must have been your fault. And there was no reason, okay, because there was no fault. You got treated like the cause of someone's unhappiness by someone who hadn't yet figured out where their unhappiness actually came from. And that was never a verdict on you. It was just their confusion pointed in the wrong direction. So stop searching yourself for the crime, okay? There wasn't one. You were the good thing the whole time. And the person who let you go is the one who has to live with having learned that too late. Take care of yourself. Bye, loves.